Will anyone out west be able to slow Luka Doncic down? The Boston Celtics franchise sale is gone. The Knicks get Mahmoud, and Anthony Davis wants to come back and play for the Mavericks this season, which begs the question, why? I'll ask Matt and Hayes all that and more today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He's the senior NBA writer for Action Network. He's the man of 1,000 podcasts. It's Matt Moore. Matt, the Boston Celtics sold for $6.1 billion. Where did your bid come in?
I'm really upset. It came in just short. I offered 5 marshmallows and a Pop-Tart, and I just came up like a little bit short. My wife didn't want me to put in the Pop-Tart, but I snuck it by her.
And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, the Prince of Petty, it's Hayes. Hayes, will the Miami Heat ever win a basketball game again?
At some point, yes, and maybe not until 2026, but it's going to happen eventually.
The arc of the universe is long.
And it bends towards Eric Spoelstra. All right, let's talk about a team that has reeled off 3 straight wins. They're having no problems right now, despite being without one of their best players. It's the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic scores 21 points in the first quarter in a blowout win over the Nuggets, who are without a lot of their key pieces. Locked On Lakers says the game might not tell us much at all about a potential Lakers-Nuggets playoff series, but it can tell us something about how the Lakers have changed.
One of the things the Lakers have done that I think is, again, another sign that they are just a professional group at this point. The earlier trends of bad first quarters, sluggish starts, all this stuff, have really, for the most part, over the last few weeks, disappeared. The Lakers have been consistently a good first quarter team. What happens when you play ahead in the NBA is almost impossible to overstate. The game becomes so much easier. Even if you fall behind a little bit, it's okay, because you know what? You're going to go on one of those runs too. You're going to have a stretch where the other team can't stop you. When you get off to a good start and you play from ahead, it is a completely different game, and the Lakers have made a habit of that lately. And that is another one of those signs to me that this is a real live championship contending team.
So Luka has been squarely in the spotlight for Los Angeles without LeBron James on the floor. Matt, what have you noticed about the Lakers? How have they changed, and how much is Luka Doncic responsible for that?
Okay. Luka's been great because Luka's always pretty great. They have an on-court offensive rating of 117 with him. Good. Not great. Good. They're winning with defense. They're winning with defense. Like, there's no question. We can go through every sort of figure you want. It's all about the defense. JJ Redick is contributing a lot more to this performance by the Lakers than Luka is. That won't always be the case. Okay. Luka's going to win them playoff games and championships and all sorts of stuff. I am talking about in the moment right now. If we actually analyze what's going on, it's their ability to play small, switch all, and defend the weak side with great wing defenders. Jackson Hayes is doing a great job. Like we talked about this when they went through that slump, and I was like, they're going to be fine when they get Jackson Hayes and Dorian Finney-Smith back. And then what do you know? You put Luka with those guys, and you're going to have enough to put pressure on opposing teams to be able to come out ahead. Now, this game, come on, man. Like, no Jokic, no Murray. What are we doing? Like, you shouldn't be crowing about the Nuggets after they beat the Lakers without LeBron, Luka, and everybody else last week. These are our injury impacted games. And so there's no real, I think, takeaway on that end. But the Lakers defense has been consistently great. That's their formula right now is Luka's a tank. The defense is great. Win with defense. Luka does the rest. That's the formula.
A quick follow-up, Matt. So, yeah, obviously this game doesn't tell us much, but if the Nuggets and the Lakers do face off in the playoffs, is there anyone on that Nuggets roster that can slow Luka down?
So the thing with Luka is you got to not die by both. And teams make this mistake of we're gonna try different looks at him, and I strongly disagree with the approach. If you're going to send different looks at him, you need to break it into halves. You spend the first half, and what you do is you play drop versus him, and you make him a score, and he's going to score. He's going to score 30 points and a half because he's amazing. Then you blitz him, and now everybody else is out of rhythm. Nobody shot the ball. You make him exhaust himself playing offense for that entire first half, maybe 3 quarters. Then you switch it, and you blitz the ever-loving nightmare out of him. You do everything to get the ball out of his hands while everybody else is stagnant. That's the only real way. The Nuggets, nobody has a defender. The Nuggets especially don't because their defense is trash, but nobody has a defender. He carved up the Wolves because they don't have big enough defenders on them. There's nobody on Denver that can do it.
The thing that impresses me most about the Lakers is that they went from the 8th worst team in the league as far as points given up in the paint prior to the All-Star break. And post-All-Star break, they're the 3rd best team at guarding the paint. That's crazy. They're only giving up right now 45.3 points per game in the paint to opponents. And that flip that's happened has been crazy to be able to say that. Like, and coming into this, we thought that their front line was going to be one of the weaker points. And so, especially when Jackson Hayes plays, they're even that much better. So, like, this is a team, I won't say that they're a championship contender. I disagree with that right now. But I do think that they're showing that they won't be that far off if the Lakers have a really good offseason going into next year. They definitely are going to be one of the favorites to come out the West.
Is a team that can make the finals a championship contender?
That's fair.
So my thing is, I'm just like, if you only got to get past OKC, and I think that they can beat anybody else in the West, I think they should be favored versus anybody else in the West. And OKC, we got to see it, right? Young, we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll beat up on Jackson Hayes, but if you can play small versus OKC, that's what you want to be able to do. So many big teams have to try and adapt to their speed. The Lakers can honestly do it. I think they're a championship contender in that I think they can win the West. And by that, you have to be considered a contender just in case like the Knicks come out of the East, then you get a shot.
Okay. One thing they haven't done is fallen into too many trap games since they acquired Luka, but there were a lot of trap games last night, and the Knicks fell right into one against the San Antonio Spurs. They lose 120-105 despite 32 points from Karl-Anthony Towns. The Spurs, without Wemby, without De'Aaron Fox, they shoot 50% from the field, 46% from three. I want to read you something by James L. Edwards, who covers the team for The Athletic. He said there are schedule losses, and then there are schedule beatdowns. And he said that the New York Knicks on Wednesday night suffered a schedule beatdown, and a team with New York's aspirations, even without Jalen Brunson, shouldn't lose the way it did against a team of the San Antonio Spurs stature. Hayes, agree or disagree with James L. Edwards' take there that this was an unacceptable loss by the New York Knicks this close to the playoffs?
I want to agree more than I disagree. I mean, the Knicks definitely have more than enough talent to win. But as we've talked about before, March is a little weird for teams. The Knicks, I don't think, have the luxury of taking their foot off the gas personally. They don't have the record above 500 teams for them to be able to do that. So it is concerning. But every loss is concerning for the Knicks, and the way that they're losing is concerning as well. But funny thing, looking into this, out of there are 9 teams in the Eastern Conference that are on losing streaks of 2 games or more. Then if you factor in the teams that are on even 1-game losing streaks, there are only 3 teams right now on a winning streak in the Eastern Conference, which is weird.
Great stuff from Hayes today, by the way. He's killing it with stats.
What do you think, Matt?
I mean, the Spurs are the number 1 offense in March, so it depends on your perspective. Like, we've been on the show and we've talked about the March stuff, and I'm trying not to beat a dead horse here. But it kind of depends. Like, do you think that that's legit? Now, here's the other thing I will say. Without Wemby and without Fox, fundamentally the core structure of the team changes, and teams evolve into something completely new. And there's 2 problems with that. One, they might find something that's actually working better, even if it's not like a long-term projected where the team wants to go. It just works right now. 2, as little scouting as goes on in the regular season during a West Coast road trip at the end of the season, which is very little, how do you scout the Spurs? How do you scout them? There's no way to scout them, and that's how you get hit with things like Mamu.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, how do you scout 34 points in only 19 minutes of play by Sando Mamukelishvili, who that was a career high. It's the first time a player has done that, maybe ever, but certainly since the NBA tracked minutes played, which was 1951. Get your Marchometers out. We did this in the last show. Scale of 1 to 10, Tibbs to Seuss. How March was this, Matt?
I'm going to say it's pretty March. Right, I'm gonna say it's pretty March. I mean, Mamu's had moments, and he's had very good like stretches throughout games. But for me, it does come down to like I try very hard to like I practice for an entire day when Giannis emerged to spell his name right, because I think it's really insulting when you can't spell guys' names right. I don't know how to spell his name. I have no idea, and so I can't sit here and be like, yeah, no, it's legit, but. I think what it shows you is how good that Spurs coaching staff still is without Pop, that they're getting these kind of performances and in their ability to find talent and develop. And also, I think it does show you like a Knicks defense just isn't good enough.
What I need to ask everybody, are they prepared for the Cooper Flag Wemby combo? Because it's coming.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Why did you? Oh, man. Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, a lot more to get to. The Boston Celtics, they are officially sold. What will the leadership change mean to their long-term prospects? Anthony Davis wants to return for the Mavs this season. Should he? Why? Lots of questions. Matt and Hayes will answer them coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live, and today there is a lot of basketball to watch live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. You never know. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. We scroll on enough. It's good to have one thing where we don't have to do a lot of scrolling. No more endless searching. Game Time Picks highlights the best seats at the best prices, so you can get straight to the fun without worrying about overpaying. Plus, with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, no surprise views, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Your favorite NBA team has a free and daily newsletter. Go to LockedOnDaily.com, subscribe, and stay up to date with local expert analysis. The Boston Celtics will have a new governor. Bill Chisholm, a managing partner at Symphony Technology Group, agreed to purchase the team from the Grusbeck family for $6.1 billion, sources told ESPN. It's the largest franchise sale in North American sports history. The Commanders sold for $6.05 billion in 2023. The current governor, Wick Grusbeck, whose family has controlled the team since 2002, is expected to remain governor until 2028. Matt, your thoughts on the sale, the timing, and the change of leadership not coming until 2028. What does all of this mean?
I think it's comforting for Celtics fans because it means that they won't necessarily face dramatic changes during this core's contention period. There's going to be changes to the Celtics anyway, just from the perspective of like Drew Holiday is going to age out and they're going to have to address that. Al Horford's going to age out. They'll have to address that. So they've got some things that they're going to have to manage. They may have to move off of some of this just depending on where the overall team decides that is best for them for the apron purposes, but it means that there's not going to be like dramatic changes like you see with new ownership, whether it's to reduce payroll or just to shake things up because they've got a new direction. I think the continuity through 2028 is overall good for them. The other thing I would kind of take away from this is, look, I'm not a business expert. I perused their holdings this morning, and they have a large investment in cybersecurity, and this is a good time to be invested in cybersecurity because of various reasons. That's going to be a pretty stable growth period for that over the next decade or so. So overall, like, you don't have to worry about some of the swings that happened under Robert Parra with the Grizzlies. It's going to be a pretty stable, I think, situation for the Celtics. And on the surface, as much as we can know, this seems like there shouldn't be much change, Hayes.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a nice, smooth transition, which is good for the fan base. I think it's also good for the state of the team, right? You don't have to worry, like you said, is any kind of sweeping moves come in here other than the ones that are naturally going to happen between now and 2028 anyway. So that should provide a little bit of safety there for Celtics fans, that you're not going to have somebody come in and all of a sudden try to cut salaries like crazy, and then you're going to lose some players that you still want on your team. I love that you pointed out that some change is going to happen naturally here over time with the Celtics team. Anyway, that's going to happen. But I think it just allows for a transition of power that I think it's just better for the team and the franchise.
It's interesting. These franchise valuations just keep going up, 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 up. And it makes you wonder, like, how difficult are these, how challenging is it going to be to make these deals happen in the future? Maybe without foreign investment. We'll have to monitor that. But I have a more interesting question for you, Hayes. Which of the remaining 29 NBA teams most need an ownership change right now, regardless of the holdings and the financial situation? Which team needs an ownership change?
Okay, so when you put this on the list, I had to pray, because this is I'm going to crash out here a little bit. So the Chicago Bulls are owned by Jerry Reinsdorf, and also the Chicago White Sox. And over the time, the Chicago Bulls have paid the luxury tax once. And in that time as well, that while the Chicago Bulls have been one of the most profitable franchises in the NBA and one of the most profitable sports franchises in the world, there's been no investment in the team. The United Center has seats that are about as old as me, so there's that problem outside of just the product on the court. On top of that, Jerry Reinsdorf, who's really good for the city of Chicago and invests actually in the west side of Chicago and is building up theaters and hotels and all of that. That's all great. But what about the team? Everybody who's a legitimate Bulls fan has done nothing but see the Bulls be milked out of money and not any talent, not any desire to win. Jerry Reinsdorf once said that it's better to sell hope than to actually build a winning team, because then you can get more money out of people that are hopeful in the team. I'm sorry, I try not to make these based on my team in the Chicago Bulls, but the Chicago Bulls are the team that needs an ownership change the most. There you go.
Preach, preacher! That was amazing. That was great. I will make a quick one and just say the Lakers. Imagine the Lakers with actual competent ownership and management. Imagine them with an aggressive group that actually sought to bring in the resources that they need. They have one of the smallest organizations. They're still run like a mom and pop store. Like this is 1975, and they're getting by exploiting the league by bringing their good friend Donald Sterling, who Jerry Buss bought in, by the way, to own the Clippers, to be the other team in LA to give him more advantages. That's no longer the landscape. The Lakers should be a team that should be sold to an actual large firm with the kind of money that can drive it forward. It's good to have a team with that kind of history. That's an awesome thing, and it'll be sad when that's over, but I do think that the Lakers will be better off with new ownership.
Could you imagine if Steve Ballmer bought the Lakers instead of the Clippers?
Yeah. How great. Oh, man. Yeah. The league would be even happier.
Maybe the Lakers would have a wall. Maybe Staples Center would have a wall. The Lakers are like a mom and pop store that occasionally goes to pull up a wooden board in the store and they strike oil.
Yeah.
That's
exactly it.
Oh man, wow, that's weird. This guy came in and bought a pack of gum and he left us $700,000.
Speaking of the Luka AD trade, Anthony Davis has been out of the Dallas Mavericks lineup since going down in his debut. If you thought he was done for the season, think again. Here's Locked On Mavericks with the details.
Before the game, we got Tim McMahon, Ban McMahon, F McMahon, whatever you want to say about him on ESPN, and he said about Anthony Davis's return. He said, quote, "He, as in Anthony Davis, is steadfast in his determination to want to return this season, maybe as soon as next week, despite the fact that there are people within the Mavericks organization that have tried to talk to him and talk him out of it, saying that the risk reward is not there. There are people that are trying to shut him down for the season, and AD is not trying to hear all that. With Anthony Davis coming back and him pushing for it, it now puts it on him, and the Mavs are letting him push, and they have wanted to shut him down, but now they've backed themselves into a corner to listen to these stars and to, all right, we're at the behest of Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis now at this point, because you've bet your whole franchise on these two guys, and these two guys' window that is very short. I don't get him coming back at all this season. If you're Anthony Davis, what are you gaining from coming back?
All right, there's the question. Why would Anthony Davis come back? What is there to gain? Matt Moore, what's your answer?
AD really took it personally when he got hit with the injury prone label. He really took that personally, and he tried really hard last year to play the entire season. He largely did. I think this is a case where that gets to be a point. This is why, I've rethought about a lot of this because of the ramifications. Guys do hear it, and then they respond by trying to play through injuries when they need to not, and they're trying to force themselves into situations and expose themselves to risk when they need to not. Davis needs to sit out because they can't afford to have him suffer. If they could contend, if they could compete, if they could make a surprise run, even if you just had Kyrie, sure, who knows? Get in the playoffs, who knows? That's sports. You can't do it. You cannot. There is not worth the reward here. I appreciate AD wanting to compete. I really do. This is great that he wants to do this and show it's leadership from him, but it's just not worth it, Hayes. He's got to sit down.
Anthony Davis needs to think about getting himself ready. There's nothing left for this season. I understand and I respect it as a competitor to want to come back and play for your team, regardless of what the record says, regardless of how much time's left. I respect that. I think the Dallas Mavericks fans deserve that. But at the same time, Anthony Davis has to think about next season and being at the best that he can be and be ready to go next season, because that's also what those Mavericks fans deserve. And I'm sorry, Anthony Davis, yeah, you've gotten an injury prone label because it's true. And if you were to suffer another injury, no matter how major or minor, do you know what that would do? Just rehab, get ready, prepare, hit the ground running next year. Hopefully Nico Harrison actually makes some sensible moves, not any more stupid ones, and then go out there and ball out to the best of your ability. I also think, to add into that, not only did the injury prone label bother him, but I also think that the trade from the Lakers bothered him a little bit, and use that as motivation. There's just no point this season.
Going back to what Nick Angstedt said in that clip, Locked On Mavericks host, do the Mavericks really have a choice here? Because if they push Anthony Davis too hard to remain on the bench, do they risk making a trade situation that already is pretty bad even worse by upsetting AD?
I don't think so, just because Nico knows that that's his guy. Nico literally has asserted that he thinks AD is better than Luka. There's zero question of commitment from the organization. This is about them trying to be do what's best for you. I think for AD, part of this probably has to also be how much everybody, including me, is they traded Luka for nothing, and AD wants to be they traded for me, and I'm a superstar, and I'm going to show you. And it's you and Kessler Edwards, my man, because there just isn't the talent there. They did play really well last night versus the Pacers, by the way, but I just don't. I can't get around this. I don't think there's any upside, and I think AD's got to come to grips with the realities of the situation.
Mavericks do lose to the Pacers on an incredible Andrew Nembhard shot, but it wasn't the only great shot last night. One of them by Cade Cunningham to sink the Miami Heat. We're going to talk about that in an odd segment coming up here on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to take your business to the next level. Upwork connects you with top freelance talent across IT, AI, web development, marketing, and even more. Whether you need an extra hand for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. This is not the only podcast that I produce, and occasionally I need help with video editing, with audio editing, and Upwork connected me with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results, and posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, I had multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com and post your job for free today. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business now. Here's a message about something very cool we have coming up, and then we'll have more Locked On NBA after that.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. A lot of tournament action today in college basketball. I'm sure a lot of people paying attention to the odds of all of these different games. Let's talk about some NBA odds. And I don't think anyone in Vegas preseason had the Detroit Pistons or Cade Cunningham looking this good this late into the season. Cade getting a near buzzer beater last night to go in off glass in a win over Miami last night. Let's kick it to the great Luka Hill of Locked On Pistons, who really knows how to celebrate a win, maybe better than anyone on the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's take a listen.
Cade Cunningham is leading the Detroit Pistons from the worst season in Pistons history. They have 39 wins, guys. It's March 19th. They are so exciting. By the way, Shaq, was that game boring? Was that a boring play from Cade? Was that game not fun to watch? Or I'm assuming you didn't watch that game because that game wasn't on TNT and you guys only watch the games that you have to get literally paid to watch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But point is, middle of March, the Pistons are getting their games flexed to ESPN because teams or people want to see them play. People want to see Cade Cunningham play. And then when he gets the moment to come out here with a triple-double, multiple key plays, and then his first game winner over an incredible defender in Bam Adebayo, with all the lights on him, with all the lights on the Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham came out and he showed up. Came out, showed up, showed out, and that right there is why Cade will be an All-NBA member. It's why the Pistons have turned their franchise around. He's coming through in the key moments for them. He's getting better. He's not even close to his ceiling yet, and everyone's talking.
All right, I had a chance to cut some of that for time, but I couldn't do it. It was all too great. Thank you, Luka Hill, for that. So he talks all NBA there for Cade Cunningham. I want to talk about the future and a possible MVP for Cade Cunningham. Who has the better odds at an MVP over the next 5 seasons, Cade Cunningham or Karl-Anthony Towns? What do you think, Case?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'd say Cade because he's a guard. He plays an exciting brand of basketball. I'd give him the better chance. It's difficult for big men to win an MVP if you're not Nikola Jokic in the modern NBA. So I'll say Cade. I think just by the way he plays, the rise, the story, the narratives around it, I'll give it to Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I mean, Cade's an engine. Like, that to me is the most impressive thing. We saw this late in the season last year, was that he showed that he could be an engine for an offense. The shooting that the work that he's put in on fixing his shot, because that was a concern for him those first 3 seasons, was like, man, I don't know if he can shoot. And then he's a great shooter now, and he's able to shoot from anywhere on the floor. And his ability to pass, all of the things that we knew about him coming into the season, which is that he can be this kind of elite offensive engine, and we're seeing that. Like, this is a clear question here. Cade's better at Towns and defense. That's the advantage for big men, is like the defensive end, and Cade's way better on defense. He's a great defender, and he's going to be awesome in this year's. I'm so excited for the next 5 years to see what comes of this. I'm excited to see what he can do in the playoffs, and if he can have a moment where he puts himself on that stage. Everyone that bought in on him as the number 1 pick those years ago, including myself, are like, yes, this is what we knew was coming. It's really great to see it pay off.
a guard who plays both ends of the floor, getting an advantage over a big who is all offense. That sounds familiar in an MVP race talk.
Good point.
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
It's actually not fair to Karl-Anthony Towns' defense. That's where we're at this year.
All right, the Wizards and the Jazz. They had a toilet bowl last night. The Jazz accidentally winning 128-112. Which team has the better odds to be a playoff threat in the next 3 to 5 seasons if one of those teams wins the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, Matt?
I like the Wizards a lot. I do. They are genuinely better. There was a piece this morning about Chris Middleton on Yahoo. Dan Devine had the Wizards among those bottom teams and kind of what to look forward to. And they're like 6-5 when Middleton plays 35 minutes. Like I don't know if mid stays. I do think there's something here. Alex Sarr, Bilal, Kispert, Keyshawn George, I think is really good. Like I'm telling you, there's something there. Versus with the Jazz, I'm kind of like, yeah, you got Markkanen, you got Kessler. That's a really good combo. Like Markkanen's an all-star. Is Markkanen, do the ages match up? I don't know. There's a lot of questions about if Flag can be a number 1, 2, which I think is like interesting. I'm going to go with the Wizards because I don't think that the Wizards need Flag to be as much of an engine as the Jazz would. So I'm going to go with the Wizards, Hayes.
Yeah, the Jazz are a team that really, like, I don't trust any type of direction that they've chosen since trading. Like, yeah, you decided to move on from Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. You actually got some talented players in, and now it seems like they're just trying to ship those guys out. I would say the Wizards, and it's weird to pick that team because they are a team that just, they haven't necessarily had it the best either over the last few years. But I think if Cooper does go there with the young core that they have there, that I trust that path more. Plus, they're in the Eastern Conference. Like, let's just be clear here. That's one of the great equalizers there as well. Like, you're in the Eastern Conference. So if Cooper is even 90% of what he's projected to be, they have off that alone almost a chance to be a playing or playoff team of most those years. So I'll say the Wizards right now.
Bulls face off against Bulls West, the Sacramento Kings tonight. Which team has a better shot of making a crazy run out of the play-in? And let's just assume here that Sabonis gets back, he's healthy for the Kings. Which team has a better shot, Hayes?
Man, that is a great question. I'll say the Sacramento Kings. I just trust them more. The Bulls, and not to crap on my team, but the Bulls haven't beat a team above 500 other than the Pacers since January. And the Pacers were missing Tyrese Halliburton when they did beat the Pacers. So I don't trust the Chicago Bulls. This run that they've been on is great. I think for the development aspect, Kobe and Josh Giddey figuring out together has been great. But I think the Kings have that veteran leadership, and they still have parts of that team that have been in the playoffs before. So I would say the Kings, I just trust them a little bit more than the Bulls because of everything going on in Chicago.
Pass.
Not an option.
Bulls, because the East is just like, oh yeah, they got past the Hawks. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, they got past the Magic because the Magic shot 35% from the field. Okay, sure. Versus like the Kings are probably going to have to get past 2 actually really good teams. Kings offense has been really good since the All-Star break. I don't know how they're doing it. Doug Christie's doing a heck of a job coaching there. It's tough. I don't believe in either of these teams. I'll say Bulls because of how bad the East is.
All right, we have a few minutes left in the show. I want to give Matt and Hayes an opportunity to get some things off their chest. It's a segment we do every week called Can We Talk About It? It's an opportunity for Matt and Hayes to tell us what we haven't been talking about enough. Hayes, we'll start with you. What would you like us to talk about?
I think we need to talk enough about it. I know I touched on this a little bit earlier when I talked about the number of teams in the Eastern Conference that are going through losing streaks right now, but the parity in the league is a thing, and I think we are really, really getting to that place. The Eastern Conference has this weird parity though, where it's like you have 3 teams that are like really, really good. You have a couple of teams after that are mostly good, right? But they still have their things. But like the Eastern Conference right now is such just like that 7th through 10th is all depressing. And I think that does need to be talked a little bit more because like these franchises that have been in the play-in almost the entire time, the existence of the play-in, and the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Miami Heat, they have to like stop falling in love with the play-in. Play-in is really, it's not something that I like. I think we should do away with it. But these franchises have convinced themselves of being in the play-in, that they're closer than what they really are. And it's just left their franchise just with the wheels spinning and not going anywhere. I think that needs to be talked about a little bit more.
Mine's going to be Chauncey Billups. So I had written them off, and I really thought that over the last 2 seasons, Chauncey Billups was the best tank commander in the league. And I was like, I had already written off this season, been like, yeah, Chauncey's going to get fired at the end of the year. Like, that just seems pretty normal. And then there was a lot of rumors that it might happen actually as early as November. And then a funny thing happened, man. Like, the players bought in, and they're defending so well. And a lot of that is like Billups has coached them up. They've had so many guys make leaps this season. There's a lot of conversation about where Billups might go next year. Honestly, there's a lot of rumors in the league about possible next destinations for Chauncey. I have gone pretty far in my estimation of Chauncey as a coach, from thinking that this is one of the guys who just like, look, I think he's a well-respected member of the league and a veteran player, but horrible coach. And now I'm like, I don't know, man. It took a while, but the results are showing. And I think we probably got to talk more about the work that Chauncey Billups has done with the Portland Trailblazers this year.
I think he would look great as the next head coach of the Detroit Pistons. I think we should talk about the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves have played 21 games decided by 3 points or fewer, which is nuts. No other team in the NBA has played more, and that's insane. I don't really know what it means, but 21 games seems like a lot to be decided by 3 points or fewer.
It probably means that they're better because they're 10 and 11 in those games. It probably means that they're better than the record. All the numbers kind of point in that direction. Like, if you look at the overall kind of tableau of the season for them, their profile, you're like, this is a really good team. So why isn't the record better? And it's those. They lose all the coin flips. It's one of the reasons why I think the clutch stuff is like, it's fascinating, but it's also really hard to parse because, yeah, I think there's a clutch gene and factor in some players where they're just ready for those moments. I also think in the minutes leading up to those moments, you can have a lot of weirdness, like a random turnover, a random bounce of the ball, a bad call that winds up deciding a lot of these games. I think the lesson there is probably that Minnesota is better than the record.
Parity, chaos, madness. It's March, baby. That's right. Enjoy the tournament action today. Enjoy the NBA action later tonight. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Thanks to Matt and Hayes for their expertise. Be kind to each other. And we're going to see you right back here tomorrow to recap it all on Locked On NBA.